welcome back to my channel. This is Rara's K-pop spot. 안녕하세요 친구들. 내 채널에 다시 오신 것을 환영합니다. 이것은 라라의 K-pop spot. Today's video is sort of three-pronged. We have three topics to cover today. First, I'm going to be talking about my favorite Korean mythology-inspired fantasy series, which would be the Talons trilogy by Sophie Kim, because I realized in the very first video that I made about Korean and Korean American authors on Rara's K-pop spot, I completely forgot to talk about my favorite fantasy series, which is insane because fantasy is one of my favorite genres to read. So the final book in the trilogy just recently came out, and I feel like now is a great time to give the Talons trilogy a highlight on my channel because I love it so much. Second, since we're now in 2025, I would take a look at my updated to-be-read list because the list has grown a ton since the last time that I kind of did a to-be-read review. And I have a ton of books with me today. We'll talk about which ones I physically own and are on my bookshelf all the time. And then I went to 2 libraries today to check out 9 books that are on my to-be-read list. And then I'll have to do screenshots for the rest because I have even more that I don't own and that I couldn't find in my library's catalog. I feel like the third part is related to my to-be-read list because the third thing that I'd like to talk about is reviewing all of the new releases that I'm excited for still to come out for the rest of 2025. So this is what we're here doing today. I'm gonna call this my book catch-up / roundup. I just feel like I need to sort of clean my slate. I obviously read several books by Korean and Korean American authors at the very end of 2024, and I feel like I've just been a little bit disorganized as far as my reading goes since then. So I'm using this honestly, selfishly, to reorganize myself, and I figure as long as I'm reorganizing myself and talking about Korean literature, I might as well record it for my channel. But first, to the library, or in this case, libraries plural, because I have to go to 2. 오늘 우리는 책에 대해 이야기하고 있습니다. 하지만 문제 도서관으로. I am going to use this voiceover time to shamelessly plug how important libraries are. Did you know that libraries don't just have books? You can also check out movies and CDs and board games and video games. And if you have a library card, you can also access Hoopla and Canopy, which are streaming services you can use to watch movies for free as well. You can also download the Libby app and check out ebooks and audiobooks. The possibilities with libraries are honestly truly endless, and libraries also do so much good free work for communities. My library recently has been teaching ASL, or American Sign Language lessons, on Saturdays for free. So I just think that libraries are such magical places, and I think they're one of the most important things that humans have ever invented. Okay, and now we're going to take a break and listen to some music that got sped up. It sounds really funny. Okay, I'm back, and I just want to remind everyone that reading is a very expensive hobby to have. So I love saving money and checking out books from the library first before committing to buying them. And on this particular trip, I got a receipt at the end that told me when I need to bring the books back, and it also told me that I saved over $200 by checking these books out from the library rather than purchasing them. Anyway, I think everyone should have a library card. Now I've gotten to the end of this and I need to go back and warn viewers that I am about to spoil the heck out of this series. So if you want to read the Talons trilogy but you have not yet, skip to the next chapter of the video because I'm about to spoil so many things. But if you have read the Talons trilogy, please tell me your thoughts in the comments because I will talk about this series all day, every day, to anyone, ever. Sorry for the spoilers. First, let's talk about Last of the Talons by Sophie Kim. This is the first book in the trilogy. It is a loose retelling of the myth of the Pied Piper mixed with lots of elements of Korean mythology. The story follows Shin Lina, who's our main character, and she is also known as the Reaper of Sunpo because she is an assassin, and after the devastating loss of her own gang, who are the Talons, she is forced to start working for her arch nemesis, and he orders her to steal a priceless tapestry from a dokebi temple and divest it of its jewels. And it turns out that, of course, this tapestry belongs to the infamous Pied Piper, who is a dokebi. So the Pied Piper shows up and demands retribution, and he whisks Lina away to his realm of Gulchon. What follows is that Lina is given 2 weeks to either kill the Pied Piper, whose name is Rui, and he is the emperor of Gulchon, or be killed herself. So that is kind of the setup for the first book in the series, and it is so good. Tensions run high throughout, the pacing is incredible, the realm of Gulchon is beautifully described, the scenery, the descriptions were stunning. I think that Sophie did an incredible job there. It's a place that I wish that I could visit. I wish it was real. Anyway, of course, you also know that over these 2 weeks together, Lina and Rui are going to start having complicated feelings for each other. So there's a little bit of a romance element mixed in. There's a theme of spies. There's political intrigue. There's a lot going on here. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it is just incredible. So that's kind of like the setup for the first one. The second installment in the trilogy is called Wrath of the Talon, and it picks up right where Last of the Talons left off. At the end of Last of the Talons, Lina discovers that she has come into some mysterious powers that have been given to her by the Imugi, and that plays a huge role in Wrath of the Talon. Whereas the majority of Last of the Talons takes place in the idyllic pocket realm of Gulchon, Wrath of the Talon takes place in the complete polar opposite of Gulchon. It takes place in Sunpo, which is the town that Lina grew up in. It's very grimy, it's very harsh compared to Gulchon, but Lina has these powers and she is coming for the Black Bloods. The Black Bloods are the nemesis enemy gang that forced her to work for them after they killed all of the members of her gang prior to the start of the first book. And she's going to use these new powers that she has gained from the Imugi to completely wipe out the Black Bloods. However, of course, there's a prophecy. Lina doesn't just have these powers from the Imugi, she is fated to bring them back. The actual Imugi, they're dragon-like serpents almost, except they can't fly. So the Imugi are like giant snakes. They want to be dragon again. They desire to be young, but that's more of a book 3 plot device. I feel like the themes are darker in Wrath of the Talon. Things really get more serious. The prophecy that is growing inside of Lina is speaking to her with the voice that is trying to lead to the prophecy coming to fruition. Lina learns that she is soul-stitched to Rui. It's like the red thread of fate. And she and Rui don't know yet if they are soul-stitched in love or in hatred. They slowly start to become rivals again because of this prophecy that's whispering in Lina's ear. There's just a lot going on. It's a lot of Lina struggling with maintaining her own independence and also coming into this prophecy that fate has woven for her and trying to learn what her new powers from the Imugi mean and what the Imugi mean to her, because the Imugi come as like physical serpents that are helping her wreak havoc on Sunpo. So there's just a lot going on. We have different point of view in Wrath of the Talon. We get these things called interludes, which take place from Rui's point of view and the point of view of people of his inner circle. There are new characters introduced. Isul is a Gumiho, and she is one of my favorite characters. I love her. The last 2 chapters are hard to read. The last 2 chapters made me cry a lot. Not nearly as much as the end of the trilogy itself, but I still loved it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. But it has a very dark ending. It's not a good time for Lina. I would argue it's actually like a terrible time for Lina. But don't let that scare you, because it's an incredible series. I really like Wrath of the Talon as a second book in the series because Lina and Rui really have to grow up a lot, and they're no longer the Pied Piper and the Reaper of Sunpo. They are adversaries facing each other across a chessboard spanning kingdoms and realms, and the story gets so much richer and deeper in the second book. It does not suffer from second book syndrome whatsoever. Okay, and then the conclusion to the trilogy is called Reign of the Talon, and it just came out in February of this year, so the series has just recently been completed. And Reign of the Talon is hands down my favorite book in the whole series. Although the first one will always have a special place in my heart, the third book was so good. Reign of the Talon opens, and we have a fully fledged prophecy that is puppeteering Lena's body. Lena is a prisoner of her own mind. Rui is trying desperately to save the Lena that he knows who is trapped inside while fighting the physical body of Lena, which is being controlled by the prophecy. There is so much going on. We're dropped right into the middle of the war for the Three Kingdoms. The prophecy acting as Lena has taken Sunpo, and she is on a mission to dominate the other remaining two kingdoms, Wusan and Bonseo. It is action-packed from the very beginning. And why is Lena taking over the Three Kingdoms? Because once she dominates the Three Kingdoms, then the Imugi are fated to become young again. They will be dragons, they will wreak havoc on the mortal realm of Isung, and it's just gonna be bad news bears for everyone involved. So Rui and the Dokebi are trying desperately to stop Lena. Several of the Dokebi are in favor of killing her. However, Rui doesn't want that because he truly believes that Lena, the true Lena, is still trapped inside her body, trapped inside her mind. He doesn't want to kill her. Understandably so, they are in love. One thing that I truly loved about this final installment in the trilogy is the insane character growth that Rui and Lena go through. I think that the characters that they are at the end of this trilogy are not the characters that they were at the start of the trilogy, and I think that that is a testament to Sophie's writing, because they learn so much, they go through so much, they grow so much. It's just incredible to read. Like, when I really think about their story arc and their character arc from start to finish, it's genius. It's nothing short of genius. And on the topic of character growth, specifically the way that Lena's character grows and strengthens throughout the final book in the trilogy was highly emotional to read. The mindscape that she was trapped in inside her own mind and the way that she fights her way out of it, the trauma of losing her voice and having to start communicating using the quiet language, the literal and figurative demons that she has to overcome in order to reclaim her body. I was just so proud of her character as she overcame so much in this last book, and it was very emotional to read. I cried many times. And then truly I feel like the war that Rui was fighting was the war of being soul-stitched in hatred to the prophecy and soul-stitched in love to Lena. I think that that was incredibly difficult for him, and for him to have to walk that line between Lena trapped in her mind and her physical body being controlled by the prophecy, I think that that was incredibly difficult for him. The sheer faith and belief that he had in the true Lena the whole time, it was just something that like took my breath away sometimes. I love the love that he has for Lena. It's so strong. It literally transcends everything else going on around them. We got some more new characters. In Reign of the Talon, we are personally introduced to several of the gods of this world. I was very intrigued by, honestly, all of the new characters that were introduced in Reign of the Talon. Sophie, if you ever watch this, I would read any spin-off series that you ever felt compelled to write for any of those characters. I loved all of them. You write side characters incredibly well. Okay, I already feel like I have spoiled enough about this book, so I will wrap it up here. However, one thing that I appreciate so much about this series is the way that Sophie gave closure to every single character, every single loose end. She leaves none. She ties everything up with a bow, and I appreciate that so much because there were a lot of side characters, and she doesn't leave any questions about what happens to any of them after the book ends. So I really appreciate that. I hate open-ended endings. I love being told exactly what happens. So I really appreciated that as a reader. I literally cried probably 10 times just reading the last 45 minutes of this book. I'll put some pictures up here because I was texting one of my best friends, Besma, because she finished it before I did, and I was like inconsolable. I was like, what is happening? Anyway, I just cannot speak highly enough of this series. If you are looking for a young adult fantasy, Korean mythology inspired series, Sophie Kim has written the perfect one. And I think that everyone who's a fan of fantasy in general should read the Talons trilogy because it is phenomenal. Okay, and next we're going to be taking a look at my updated TBR list, or to be read list. I think it's been several months now since I last took a look at my to be read list, so we're going to take an updated look. As it stands right now, I have over 25 books on my to be read list by Korean and Korean diaspora authors, and I'm sure that I'm overlooking some. This is nowhere near an exhaustive list, and it's growing all the time, but as it stands right now, let's look at some things that are on my to be read list. I have 7 books on my shelf right now waiting to be read, and for the purposes of this video, I went and checked out another 9 books on my to be read list from the library so that I could talk about them and highlight them in more detail today. But there are more still that I don't own and that my library didn't have, so I will just put the screenshot of the covers up here to chat about them briefly. Let's take a look at my slightly overwhelming to be read list. We are having a super fun time. I'm not at all overwhelmed by how many books I want to read and how little time I have to read them all. How many books is this? 14 books plus my Kobo. So we're gonna see if I can pick these up. Oh, we're doing great, actually. Okay. I have here with me today 14 physical books plus 1 ebook on my Kobo that are part of my to be read list. 9 of them I checked out from the library, 5 of them I own, and 1 of them is on my Kobo. So we are just going to take a little look at all of these today. First, we'll go through the ones that I own and that I have on my shelves, and then we'll get through the library books. So first, we have ASAP by Axie Oh. I love Axie. Every book that I've read by her, I have adored. I'm very excited to read ASAP because it is the companion novel to XOXO. If you've read XOXO, ASAP is Sori and Nathaniel's story, and it's second chance romance, and I loved XOXO, so I'm very excited. I also loved Sori and Nathaniel as characters, so I am very excited to read their story. I have owned this on my Kobo for far too long now. I need to just sit down and read it. Next up, I have mentioned Bingsu for Two in one of my previous videos, but Bingsu for Two by Sujin Witherspoon is one that I have had on my radar for a very long time. I had been following Sujin for a long time leading up to the publication of Bingsu for Two. So this is one that I have owned since the date came out. It just came out in January of this year, so it is a new release. It is Sujin's debut novel, and it is the story of River and Sarang. And River starts working for Sarang's family's Korean cafe. The cafe is called Bingsu for Two, and they have to fake date after a video of them goes viral that appears to make it look like they're a couple. The video that goes viral of them actually winds up bringing a lot of attention and business to the cafe, so they have to keep it up to continue bringing good business into Bingsu for Two. And of course, over time, they're definitely gonna fall for each other, right? The chapter titles in this book are hilarious. Just flipping through it the day that I picked it up, I was literally laughing out loud at some of the chapter titles, so I am incredibly excited to read this one. It is very high up on my priority read list for 2025. Fireworks by Alice Lin is one that I have owned for a while now. I believe I read that Alice Lin is actually a Taiwanese-American author, but this is a K-pop romance story, so I wanted to include it in this list. I have only read, I think maybe XOXO might be the only K-pop romance story that I've read, but this one is short and it sounds like a very comforting sort of YA rom-com whenever I am in the mood for one. This one is also childhood love, second chance romance, I think. Blood of the Old Kings. This is actually a work of translated literature. This, I think, is considered adult fantasy. I don't think it's young adult, but Stevie, my best friend, has read this one and she loved it, so I'm very excited to read it at some point in the near future. This one has magic, it has sorcery, it has necromancy, so I am actually in the mood for like a good fantasy book right now, so maybe I will make time for this one very soon. Very excited about this one. I'm very excited about all of these. I don't feel like I should have to say that. It goes without saying. I'm excited about all of these. I wouldn't own them if I wasn't. The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. I can't believe I haven't made time to read this one yet, since the Talons series is my favorite fantasy series. The God and the Gumiho follows Hani and Sokka. Hani is a Gumiho and Sokka is a fallen trickster god. When a powerful demon escapes from the underworld, Hani and Sokka must team up to try and capture them. Part of the bargain is that Sokka will be reinstated as a god if he is able to track down and capture this demon, as well as the Scarlet Fox, which is what Hani was known as before she retired from eating souls. However, Sokka does not know that Hani is the Gumiho that he is looking for, so They team up, and Hani knows that she must keep her identity a secret from Soka. And I've heard that there's a lot of really good banter in this one. I know that the sequel comes out later this year, so I am incredibly excited about this one. I love everything that Sophie Kim writes, so I'm sure this one is going to be phenomenal. And then the last two that I own are the Wicked Fox duology by Kat Cho. I own the second one, which is called Vicious Spirits, on my Kobo. Eventually, I need to get a physical copy of the second one for my shelves. Wicked Fox is the story of Mi-young. She is a gumiho. One night, Mi-young comes across Ji-hoon, who is a boy her age who is being attacked in the woods by a goblin. She saves Ji-hoon. However, in the process of saving him, she loses her fox speed, which is her gumiho soul. So she has to track down her fox speed before the next full moon. She winds up, of course, teaming up with Ji-hoon to do so. And I think that this is just a very popular YA fantasy steeped in Korean mythology. I am a big fan of Kat Cho. I enjoyed Once Upon a K-Prom that I read from her. I'm looking forward to Wish Upon a K-Star, which also comes out later this year, that I'll be talking about later in the video. But everyone that I know who has read this duology has loved it, so I'm very excited to read this one. Also, hopefully sometime soon. First, from the library, we have The Rainfall Market by Yu Yong-kwang. I think that this is considered like magical realism or cozy fantasy, healing fiction, maybe. I think it has a similar kind of vibe to a lot of other healing fiction books that I have seen by Korean authors. However, I think that this one has more of a fantasy element to it. Essentially, on the outskirts of Rainbow Town, there is an old abandoned house. And if you send a letter there detailing your misfortunes, you will get a ticket. And if you bring that ticket to the house on the first day of the rainy season, you have a chance to completely change your life. This one has a cat, which I'm very excited about. And there are fantastical realms, apparently. The dokebi are part of this as well. It's short. It looks like one that I would just read on a rainy Sunday, devour it in one go. So anyway, I'm very excited about this one. I need to stop saying that. Obviously, I'm excited about all of them. Next, from the library, we have Pachinko by Min-jin Lee. And this one is, from what I understand, incredibly popular. It's a generational family saga spanning, I think, like 50 years of a Korean family living in Japan. And it's considered historical fiction. I think it is also considered literary fiction. It is like just highly beloved, very, I think, well received critically. It's a National Book Award finalist, so it's one that I definitely want to make time for. I love books that are told over long periods of time, books that are told back and forth in time, so I think I will wind up enjoying this one. Historical fiction is not one of the genres that I tend to seek out. However, it is a genre that I always wind up enjoying when I do read it, so very excited about this one. Oh, I need to stop. Next, we have Rebel Soul by Axie Oh. A lot of Axie on my list. I love Axie's works. This one I am actually particularly excited for because this one is considered young adult science fiction. It takes place in the year 2199 in a place called Neo Seoul, and it is advertised as being Pacific Rim meets Korean action drama. So that is quite literally all I need to know about it. I will be very excited to sit down and read this one. Also, Ellen Oh, who wrote The Colliding Worlds of Mina Lee, has blurbed it on the front, and she writes, "Warning, do not start this book unless you have time to finish it in one sitting because you will not want to put it down." And I am inclined to believe that. So you know the drill. I am very excited for this one. Next we have The Red Palace by June Her. And I recently read A Crane Among Wolves by June and loved it, so now I have more of June's backlog that I want to make a priority. So The Red Palace is another historical fiction that takes place in the Joseon Dynasty period in the 1700s, and it follows Hyun, who is a nurse at the palace, and one night there are 4 women killed, and the main suspect is actually her teacher and mentor. So in order to prove her teacher's innocence, she starts her own secret investigation where she meets Oh-jin, who is a police investigator, and he's also trying to figure out who the killer is. And they team up and begin to suspect the crown prince as the murderer of these women. And I truly love June's writing. I think that she does historical fiction so well. One could say that I am very excited about this one. Okay, next up we have a new to me Korean American author. I just recently discovered Sarah Suk because I'm actually particularly excited about Sarah's upcoming new release. I think it comes out next week on April 1st, Meet Me at Blue Hour. And I decided to do a little bit of research and read a couple of her backlogged stories before I read Meet Me at Blue Hour, starting with The Space Between Here and Now, which follows Amy Rowe, who has sensory time warp syndrome, which means certain smells will actually cause her to travel back in time to the memory associated with that smell. So I think this would be considered YA speculative fiction or magical realism. There is a time that comes where Amy is actually transported back in time for 9 hours, so it's her longest disappearance yet, and it's into a memory of her estranged mother, and it's a memory that she's never encountered before, and it doesn't match up with what her father has told her about why her mother is estranged from them. So to find answers, she travels to Korea so that she can kind of unravel the mystery behind her memories, why this is happening to her, and what actually happened to her mother. I love time travel elements in books as long as they are well done, and I think that this one has gotten typically very good reviews. So what is another synonym for excited? I am thrilled to read this one sometime soon. Next up, we have Flipped the Script by Lila Lee. This one is a young adult romance rom-com type of book. Lila has said that this one is her love letter to K-dramas. So the premise of this one follows Hana, who just recently got cast as the female lead in a buzzy new K-drama. She is fake dating her co-star Brian Yoon, but then viewership numbers start to fall, so the production crew decides to bring in another female lead to create kind of a love triangle between Hana and Brian. But the person that they cast is Minji Park, who is Hana's former best friend and classmate and crush, because Hana is bi. And what follows is Hana and Minji falling in love behind the scenes offset. So there is fake dating, dating in secret, love triangle. There's a lot going on here. Several of the tropes that you find in a good K-drama are found in this book, and I love that this one has queer representation. This will be the second young adult sapphic K-pop or K-drama related book that I've read, the other one being Gorgeous Gruesome Faces by Linda Chang. I am always just very happy when I see this kind of representation in Korean literature, so I know that Lila also has another one that's on my to-be-read list, but my library didn't have it. Next, we have Yeonam-dong's Smiley Laundromat, and this one I definitely added to my to-be-read list after finishing Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop because I loved it. That was one of my favorite reads from 2024, and I wanted more of that kind of Korean healing fiction genre in my life. So I added several books of the healing fiction variety to my to-be-read list, and this is one of them. This, from my understanding, follows the story of a community of people who utilize the same laundromat. One day, a notebook is left behind at the laundromat, and the customers of this laundromat start writing candid diary entries, inviting random acts of kindness between one another. But then apparently there's something darker happening here with the notebook, and then all of the people who are part of this community and frequent this laundromat have to team up to solve a mystery to help the owner of the notebook find peace. This is just another book that really emphasizes human relationships, similar to the way that Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop did. And I loved that about Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop, so I have high hopes for Yeonam-dong's Smiley Laundromat. And there's a cat on the cover. Second to last, the penultimate book that we are talking about today is Please Look After Mom by Shin Kyung-suk. And this was actually brought to my attention by Jinu Park, who I originally started following on TikTok because he had really excellent Korean literature recommendations. But in a minute, I'm going to be talking about how I am incredibly excited for his debut novel because he has a novel coming out later this year. So anyway, Jinu, thank you. You have taught me so much. Apparently, it is like incredibly popular. Over 1 million copies sold in Korea. But it follows the story of a family, and it's told from multiple points of view: the husband, the daughter, the son, and the mother. One day, mom goes missing in a busy Seoul subway station, and then it's told from multiple points of view of the members of her family as they try to search for her. and apparently it has some kind of like shattering, mind-blowing ending. The cover blurb says that this is an authentic picture of contemporary life in Korea, so I think that that makes it a very good book to read while I'm looking to continue educating myself on Korean culture. But apparently everyone says that you'll never think of your mother the same way after reading this, and like, do we all really know the person that we call mom? So I'm like very intrigued by this, but I have a feeling that it's going to be on some level emotionally devastating. However, I think that this is a very important one to read. Okay, and finally we have reached the end for books to feature in today's video. Last up we have Five Broken Blades by May Corland, and May Corland is actually a pen name for Meredith Ireland. So Meredith Ireland is a Korean-American author. She publishes young adult and middle grade works under Meredith Ireland, and then Five Broken Blades was her new adult fantasy debut under the name May Corland. And I actually loved The Jasmine Project by Meredith Ireland. I've talked about it in a previous video. So when I found out that Meredith was publishing new adult fantasy under the name May Corland, I was like, sign me up, I'm there. And this one is a trilogy. The second book in the trilogy actually just came out early this year, maybe in January, and the conclusion to the trilogy comes out over the summer. So these have come out kind of close together. Look at the painted edges. I actually need to go buy the copies of the first two books that are out before the sprayed edges are out of print, because I really want these for my shelves. It's stunning. Okay, and oh my gosh, look at how beautiful the inside cover is as well. This is, I need to go buy this for myself. I need this on my shelves. Looks like it's told from multiple points of view. We love that in a fantasy. And the little tagline at the top says, "It's the season for treason. The king of Yusan must die." Okay, I'm Satmei. But apparently this is the story of 5 liars who have to team up to kill the king god June. I am very excited to read about these 5 liars and their treachery and their fight to take the crown from God King June. The Proposal by Bae Myung-hoon. This is a space opera romance set against the backdrop of a war between Earth and a mysterious adversary, and it's a love story that is unfolding through a series of letters where a spaceborne soldier proposes to his Earthborn partner, and I literally think I might throw up. This sounds so cute. The Healing Season of Pottery by Yeon So-min. This is one that I added to my to-be-read list after I finished Welcome to the Hunandong Bookshop, because this is another one that falls into that category of healing fiction, and it really focuses on art as a form of healing. Marigold Mine Laundry by Yoon Jung-eun is another healing fiction type story mixed with magical realism. It tells the story of an enchanted laundromat where you can go to wash away your painful memories. Almond by Son Won-pyong is the story of Yoon-jae, who was born with a brain condition that makes it hard for him to feel emotions like fear or anger. This is considered, I think, literary fiction and also coming of age, but it's ultimately a story of how love and friendship and persistence can change your life forever. I Want to Die But I Still Want to Eat Tteokbokki by Baek Se-hee is the follow-up to her first book, I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. And these are considered therapy memoirs, so it is further documenting her sessions with her psychiatrist. I'll Be the One by Lila Lee tells the story of Sky Shin, who dreams of becoming the world's first plus-size K-pop star, telling her story of starring in a televised K-pop competition. Although I haven't read any of Lila's works yet, I really appreciate the representation she writes into her books. This one seems to balance commentary on the fatphobic beauty standards of the K-pop industry while celebrating body positivity and confidence, which makes me really excited to read it. I am going to spare you any more voiceovers because clearly I love to talk, and if I talk about all of these new releases I'm excited for, this video will be over an hour long. So without further ado, here are 14 new releases coming out in 2025 by Korean and Korean diaspora authors that I am very excited for and that I will talk about on my channel in the future. Okay, that is it for today's video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please share it with any friends you have who also love reading or who are looking for new book recommendations. I am very excited to have gotten to talk about all of these wonderful books today, so thank you for being here. Bye friends, thank you for watching. 봐주셔서 감사합니다. 안녕 친구들. 이 동영상을 좋아하셨다면 좋아요와 구독을 잊지 마세요. Anyway, we can go to bloopers now. 이제 블루퍼리로 이동할 수 있습니다. Okay, 즐기세요. Enjoy, bye! Okay, and I'm going to need to figure out a better way to combine my English and Korean blooper reel commentary because that felt super awkward. So I'll figure that out and hopefully it'll be better next time. Okay, bye for real now. Today my favorite Korean American fantasy, no. I figured since it's the start of a new year, I guess we're kind of like several months into the new year now. It's like a cousin, no. I don't know, whoa! That sounded concerning. World? I don't think that was English. What if I thought before I spoke? Let's get this. Okay. This is like a pretty good workout. Oh my, okay. They are enemies. Are they enemies? Excited. I need to get a thesaurus. Eventually, I would love to have a physical copy. Whoa. Oh my gosh. I'm actually just very excited to, oh. That stack of books just fell. Everything's fine. What? You see? No. Why did I close my eyes?